What are the best groceries to buy when you're broke? Whether you are literally completely broke, or you're wanting to just cut back on your food spending, or you're wanting to work on saving some more money, the grocery budget is a great place to start to shave off some dollars. Today I'm going to share with you the best cheap groceries to buy that you should have on your grocery list. But first of all, a couple things to know. I think there is kind of this misconception that if you're gonna buy really cheap, you have to buy processed foods. And that's not the case. I do buy some processed foods, but you don't have to still buy cheap foods. There are a lot of good grocery items that are inexpensive that you can get. So we're gonna talk about that. But I do think that that is a misconception that we sometimes have. Now, there are foods, there are groceries that you're gonna want to avoid when you are trying to really cut back on your grocery spending. And I'm not gonna cover all of those today, but I have a video, I'm gonna link that for you, that talks about the things that you should avoid buying if you're trying to save on groceries. Now, I would say the number one thing that is really important is to make a plan. So making that grocery list, making that meal plan so you even know what groceries you need, that is gonna be so helpful. So you're not just going to the grocery store blind and just grabbing stuff that you think you'll need. Making a plan is definitely key. And I would say when you're tight on money, you're gonna wanna first of all prioritize your dinners, right? Make sure that you are able to get some good food for your dinners, and then breakfast. Breakfast is, we all know breakfast is an important meal of the day. You wanna make sure to get something in for breakfast. And then lunches, a lot of times, at least in my experience, a lot of times we will have some leftovers that we could use leftovers from dinner for lunch. Snacks are going to be like the last priority, in my opinion. You want to make sure you have your dinners. You want to make sure you have your breakfast. Lunch, you might have leftovers or whatever. Snacks, if you have money left over in your budget, sure, get some snacks. Or if you can make some homemade things for cheaper, do that. But snacks shouldn't be the first priority, because we all know that snacky foods, especially processed snacky foods, can really add up quickly. Okay, but the whole point of this video is to talk about what are the cheapest foods to buy. So let's jump into that now. Okay, so we're gonna kind of do this by category. So let's start off with fruit. Now, fruit, it's really key to try to buy in season. If you're buying berries in the middle of the winter, you're gonna be paying more. Generally, occasionally there's a sale, but in general, if you're buying things out of season, it's gonna be more. So try to just buy the fruit that is in season and on sale. Now, I pretty much every week buy apples, because even though they're more in season in the fall, they are pretty, at least here in Texas, they're priced pretty much the same throughout the year. And so apples are a fruit that I know is generally cheaper than a lot of other fruits. And so that is what I get for my kids. Also, bananas are generally pretty good price. So apples and bananas, like the kids' song, are fruits that I go to pretty much every week. And then I supplement with the fruits that are on sale. Like in the winter, you get more orange sales. In the summer, you get more berries and watermelon and things like that. So I kind of have my staple fruits that are generally cheaper. And then I have my extra fun fruits during the different seasons when they're on sale. Okay, for produce, you have things like carrots, onions, potatoes, celery. Some of these things are always going to be pretty economical, pretty cheap for you to get. When you buy lettuce, if you buy it unwashed, uncut, and all of that, you can definitely get it a lot cheaper than going for those bagged salads. Definitely stay away from the bagged, ready, pre-made, pre-washed, whatever. Definitely stay away from those bagged salads when you're really trying to save money. They're convenient. I love the convenience, but they are definitely going to cost you a lot more. A lot of times, if I want a lot of salad, I'll get like the bag of romaine hearts. It's like 3 of them in a bag, and that will last me like forever. And you just have to wash it and cut it up yourself. But then if you put it in a bag in the fridge with a paper towel in there to kind of soak up the moisture, it will last you quite a while and be a lot better deal than the pre-bagged stuff. Then for other produce, sometimes it will go on sale, like asparagus, which my whole family really enjoys asparagus. It can be pretty pricey, but Kroger will have sales on that. So I try to watch for sales for that. Also, don't forget about frozen veggies and canned veggies. My family's not used to the canned veggies, and so we don't do them just because, yeah, nobody really likes them, but they can be a great deal for you. So if your family will eat them, canned veggies can be a great choice. But then frozen veggies, we do a lot of those because, for one thing, they're not gonna go bad in the drawer in the fridge. They're in the freezer and they will last until you need them. And you can get great prices on frozen veggies, and a lot of times there are even sales for them. So definitely don't forget about frozen veggies. Okay, let's talk about meat. Now, you will notice that in a lot of my meal plans, I choose recipes that call for chicken, that maybe call for ground beef, sometimes smoked sausage, but I don't do a lot of the other meats like a nice beef cut because they are just so much more expensive. When it comes to chicken, you can buy a whole chicken. Used to be like $5, now it's like 7 something at Walmart. But they have big ones. You can get like a 5.5 pound chicken. And if you cook that up and shred it, the last time I did it was a 5.5 pound chicken and I got 8 cups of meat, which I can divide up to work for like 3 different dinners. So that is a great value. Chicken drumsticks are also really economical. If you have a choice between drumsticks and wings, wings are really tasty, but they are definitely not as economical and you get a lot less meat on them. So definitely go for drumsticks if you're trying to save. Chicken breasts aren't quite as economical, but you can make them stretch. You can cook them and shred them up. Or if you just want to have the chicken breast in a recipe, you can slice it like, what do you say, like lengthwise so that they're thinner and really stretch them that way. So I do like to buy chicken breasts. Now, ground beef prices have gone up in the last year, but still ground beef is one of the best deals as far as beef goes. If you don't mind the taste of ground turkey, it's like half the price. And so you could swap in ground turkey for ground beef, or you could kind of do half and half if you wanted to help stretch your ground beef. I find that Kroger does have a lot of sales on ground beef. Like this week, I got it on sale for $3.99 a pound, and then I had 2 extra coupons for it that took off another like $2.50. So if you are gonna get ground beef on a regular basis, just watch for those sales and you'll be able to get it at a better price. Smoked sausage can be a really great meat to add to meals because it's really pretty economical and you don't have to add a ton in order to get a lot of flavor. Pork loin is another good one that is pretty economical because you can get a pretty good sized pork loin for not all that much, and it will usually for us make several meals. So that is also a good one to keep in mind. You'll notice I'm not including any cuts of beef besides the ground beef. I love a good steak. I love a good roast. So I'm not saying never buy those things, but they are not as economical, so I'm not going to include them in my cheapest food list. Okay, we have to talk about eggs. In the past, eggs were like a cheap dinner for us, right? In the past, it was like, okay, I don't want to have another meal with meat this week, so we're going to do just a breakfast for dinner and make scrambled eggs or fried eggs or whatever. Well, right now, eggs are definitely not cheap, but I still wanted to mention them because I'm hopeful that they will go down in price here, hopefully soon. And again, it will be another good cheap source of protein. So we'll just kind of see on the eggs. But again, right now they are not really one of those cheap foods. Hopefully that will change in the future. As far as dairy goes, cheese can be a little bit pricey. I love cheese, so I do buy a lot of it, but I'm always watching for the sales. But I did want to mention cottage cheese because cottage cheese has a ton of protein in it. So if you're looking for a good source of protein, cottage cheese can be a good option for you. That's not as expensive as meat, not even as expensive as eggs right now. Okay, on to dry goods. We obviously don't want to forget things like beans and lentils and rice, all of those things. That's probably even what comes to your mind when you think cheap foods. As far as beans go, it's going to be the most bang for your buck if you buy them dry and just cook them yourself. Honestly, they will taste better that way too. I much prefer home cooked beans to the canned ones, but canned ones are really convenient and they're not that expensive either. So either way, whichever you prefer, it's going to be good for your budget. Just make sure to choose beans that you know that you will eat. We really enjoy black beans and we like pinto beans as well. So those are the 2 kinds that I usually try to stay stocked up on. We also have your lentils, we have rice, we have oats. Now, oats can be a little bit pricier, but still, if you're buying oats to make your own oatmeal, that's going to be more good for your budget than buying a bunch of cereal. So even though oats is a little more expensive, I'm going to include it on my cheap foods list. I think it still earns a spot. Pasta is another great item to have on your cheap grocery list. Pasta is inexpensive and it's filling, and it's a great thing to have in your pantry. I like to spend a little bit more when I do spaghetti and get whole wheat spaghetti because we just really enjoy the flavor more, and I like that it's a little bit healthier for you too. At least has some nutrients in there from the whole wheat. Now we don't want to forget about peanut butter, and that's something that I always have on hand. I have in my stockpile as well because peanut butter is a great source of protein. It's not that expensive, and you know, if you're in a pinch, you can have a peanut butter sandwich for lunch. You're going to get that protein. Yeah, it's not the best lunch ever, but when you need something cheap and you need something easy, you can do a peanut butter sandwich. It's going to be okay. I also really like to have canned tomatoes on hand. Canned tomatoes are cheap and you can make a great taco soup or chili or something with canned tomatoes and canned beans. You can throw in your ground turkey or your ground beef and you have a meal. So definitely I like to keep canned tomatoes on hand, and again, they're canned so they're not going to go bad like regular tomatoes in your crisper drawer. As far as snack foods go, a lot of processed snack foods are overpriced, and so I'm not going to include them on my list. I will say saltine crackers are about the cheapest cracker you'll find, so they can be nice to have on hand for just having some crackers. What else? Popcorn, if instead of buying like the pre-bagged stuff, if you just have popcorn kernels and you have like a popcorn popper, that can be really economical as well. We don't want to forget about baking goods. Everyone needs to have some baking goods on their cheap grocery list. Things like flour and sugar and salt. Yeast is a good thing to have, especially if you like to make your own bread, and that saves you some money. So yeast, and then of course like baking soda, baking powder, and then some simple spices and seasonings. I know I use, for something sweet, cinnamon a lot, and then I use a lot of garlic powder, onion powder, chili powder. So just some of those basic ones that they're good to have on hand, and they're usually right around $1, so it's not much. So it's a good thing to make sure you have on your grocery list. Okay, I'm sure I missed some things, so let me know in the comments, what did I totally miss? I'm thinking right now, there's probably something really obvious that I did not say. I don't know. So let me know. Let me know what I missed and what you would add to my list in the comments. Thank you guys as always for being here. If you're new here, I hope that you will subscribe. I like to talk about how you can save your family money by meal planning and grocery shopping frugally. I appreciate you giving this video a like. That really helps me out. I will see you soon in my next video.